Welcome to a world where textbooks turn into quests and homework into adventures with rewards. The gamification of education is not just a passing trend, but a response to fundamental changes in how modern children perceive information. Digital technologies have reshaped the cognitive maps of entire generations. Children born after the year 2000, representatives of generations Z and Alpha, are the first true digital natives, for whom virtual reality is as natural as air. They think differently, learn differently, and demand entirely new approaches to education. The traditional model, where the teacher lectures and the student listens, is losing out in competition with vibrant, interactive digital worlds. This is where gamification enters the scene. The use of game mechanics and thinking in non-game contexts. This isn't just about adding points and rewards, but a deep transformation of the educational process through the lens of what makes games so captivating. Immediate feedback, tangible progress, the freedom to make mistakes, and constant challenges that match growing skills. The history of education spans thousands of years, but never before has it transformed as rapidly as in recent decades. From the clay tablets of the Sumerians to the chalkboard and chalk, teaching methods evolved gradually, retaining a key principle. The teacher speaks, the student listens. This approach worked for centuries, shaping generations of thinkers, scientists, and creators. But the world has changed. Children born in the era of smartphones grow up in an environment where information is instantly accessible, and feedback arrives in fractions of a second. The traditional educational model, with teacher monologues, static textbooks, and delayed knowledge assessment, proved unprepared to compete with the instant digital world. Representatives of generations Z and Alpha, who grew up surrounded by interactive technologies, perceive information differently. They are visuals, accustomed to dynamic context switching, demanding immediate responses to their actions. For them, sitting at a desk for 45 minutes, listening to a lecture, is a real challenge. Their brains, adapted to the digital environment, seek constant stimulation and reward. This is where gamification becomes not just a useful addition, but a necessity. It offers what traditional education cannot: a system of immediate encouragement, visualization of progress, personalized learning paths, and most importantly, a sense of control over the process. Game mechanics allow abstract knowledge to be transformed into tangible experience, and routine exercises into exciting challenges. Research shows that a brain receiving regular doses of dopamine from small victories and achievements forms more stable neural connections, which directly affects material retention. Thus, school classrooms are beginning to transform into game spaces, where each assignment is a quest, each topic is a level, and educational goals become game achievements. Why do we immerse ourselves in games with such relish? The answer lies deep within our brains. When we play, a true fireworks display of neurochemical reactions is unleashed in our nervous system. Dopamine, the pleasure hormone, is released every time we score points, complete a level, or unlock a new achievement. This biological reward system evolved over millions of years, helping our ancestors survive, to hunt, gather food, and learn new things. Today, games directly tap into these ancient mechanisms, creating a powerful motivational loop. Every small victory in a game is a microdose of pleasure that makes us come back again and again. Gamification in education uses precisely this principle, turning learning tasks into sources of dopamine surges. A child's brain, especially that of digital natives, literally flourishes in such an environment. Neuroscientists have discovered that the game format activates not only pleasure centers, but also brain areas responsible for long-term memory, concentration, and creative thinking. When a child is emotionally engaged, when they experience excitement and joy from the process. Information is absorbed at a much deeper level. This is a state that psychologists call flow, an optimal combination of challenge and skill, where the task is not too easy to be boring and not too difficult to cause frustration. Gamification masterfully creates and maintains this state, gradually increasing difficulty as skills grow. Another psychological mechanism is constant visible feedback. In traditional education, a child might wait weeks for a grade on their work. In a gamified environment, the result is visible instantly. Points are awarded, progress bars fill up, characters evolve. This transparency of progress gives the student a sense of control over their own education, which is critically important for intrinsic motivation. What makes games so engaging, and how do these mechanics work in education? Let's break down the key elements of gamification that transform ordinary lessons into exciting adventures. The first and most noticeable element is the points and rewards system. In traditional education, a student receives a grade only after completing a large block of work. In a gamified environment, every small achievement is instantly recognized, with points, virtual coins, stars. These micro-rewards create a constant flow of positive reinforcement, maintaining high motivation. The second element is the level and progression system. Instead of abstract movement through the curriculum, a child sees concrete steps of growth. Mastered multiplication tables up to 5? Congratulations! You've reached the third level of mathematical mastery. This visualization of progress makes learning tangible, and goals specific and achievable. Competitive elements are another powerful tool. Rankings, leaderboards, team competitions activate children's natural drive for rivalry. It's important that modern approaches to gamification emphasize not so much competition with others, but rather overcoming one's own records. This reduces stress and increases inclusivity. The narrative element turns learning into a story with a plot. Instead of disconnected tasks, students embark on a holistic adventure where each task is part of a larger quest. Studying the history of ancient Egypt becomes an expedition in search of lost artifacts, and solving equations, cracking a code to save a virtual world. Freedom of choice and the possibility of personalization are especially valued by digital generations. Gamification offers different paths to achieve goals, the ability to choose tasks, and customize virtual characters. This creates a sense of control over the process, which is critically important for intrinsic motivation. We live in an era where, for the first time in human history, generations have grown up for whom the digital world is as natural as the physical one. Children of generations Z and Alpha are not just technology users, but true digital natives. They have never known a world without the internet, smartphones, and social media. For them, technology is not a tool, but a habitat, as organic as the air we breathe. This characteristic fundamentally changes the way they perceive information and learn. Their brains are literally wired differently. Neurobiological studies show that constant interaction with digital devices from an early age reshapes neural connections, creating a unique cognitive architecture. What does this mean for education? First and foremost, modern children possess an unprecedented ability to multitask. They can simultaneously listen to music, chat with friends, and do homework. However, the flip side is a decreased ability to concentrate on a single object for an extended period. The average attention span of a Generation Alpha representative is about 8 seconds. Less than that of a goldfish. This is not a deficit, but an adaptation to an information-rich environment, where the ability to quickly switch between tasks becomes an advantage. Digital natives are visual learners. They grew up on vibrant interfaces, dynamic videos, and infographics. For them, the image is always primary to the text. This explains why traditional textbooks cause them rejection. Monotonous pages of text simply do not resonate with their way of perceiving information. Another key characteristic is the need for immediate feedback. Accustomed to instant likes and comments, these children experience discomfort when the result of their actions is not immediately visible. Waiting a week for a test grade is agonizing for them. Their brains crave immediate confirmation of success or an indication of error. Theory without practice is dead, and there is no better proof of gamification's effectiveness than real-world success stories from all corners of the globe. The Finnish educational platform Minecraft EDU transformed the popular game into a powerful learning tool. Teachers create virtual worlds where children build medieval castles, learning history, or model ecosystems grasping biology. The results are impressive: an 80% increase in engagement and a 30% improvement in information retention compared to traditional methods. The American program Classcraft transforms entire schools into role-playing games where students become warriors, mages, and healers, earning experience for academic achievements. In schools that implemented the system, attendance increased by 25% and disciplinary infractions were cut in half. A third-grade class in New York, studying math through the gamified application Dreambox, showed a 60% increase in test scores in just 8 weeks. The largest jump was demonstrated by children who had previously lagged in their studies. The Russian project, Uchi.ru, also shows impressive results, where mathematical problems are turned into character adventures. Studies confirm children who use the platform perform 40% better on standard tests. But the most compelling example is the educational revolution in South Korea. The national gamification program SMART led to 70% of school children voluntarily continuing their studies after lessons, perceiving it as an exciting hobby rather than an obligation. Behind every innovation lies not only potential but also risk. Gamification in education is no exception. Immersing ourselves in the vibrant world of game mechanics, we risk encountering their dark side, the formation of addiction, which transforms from a learning tool into an obstacle. Our brain, evolutionarily unprepared for constant stimulation by reward systems, is particularly vulnerable in childhood. Game mechanics skillfully exploit dopamine pathways, creating powerful reward cycles that can lead to genuine addiction. Research shows an alarming trend. Children accustomed to constant gamified stimulation experience significant difficulties when returning to traditional learning formats. They literally lose the ability to learn without constant external reinforcement. Psychologists call this phenomenon the reward overdose effect, when intrinsic motivation for knowledge is replaced by dependence on external stimuli. Another danger is the formation of a superficial attitude towards knowledge. When education turns into a pursuit of points and achievements, a deep understanding of the subject may recede into the background. Children begin to perceive learning as a series of hacks to get rewards, rather than a process of intellectual growth. Representatives of Generation Alpha are particularly vulnerable, their brains forming in an era of instant digital rewards. Neuroplasticity, which is an advantage in adapting to new technologies, becomes a trap when it comes to addiction formation. Studies show that excessive gamification can lead to reduced concentration, problems with emotional regulation, and even changes in brain structure similar to those observed in gaming addiction. In the search for the ideal balance between play and learning, we encounter a fundamental question. Where is that fine line crossed when gamification ceases to serve education and begins to supplant it? The golden ratio, an ancient principle of harmony, is applicable here as well. The optimal proportion of gaming and educational content cannot be expressed by a universal formula. It depends on the age of the students, the subject, and specific pedagogical objectives. However, there are principles that help maintain this balance. The first, and most important, is the primacy of educational goals over game mechanics. Game elements should be a tool, not an end in themselves. When a child is more concerned with collecting virtual coins than understanding the material, the balance is broken. Effective gamification makes the educational process more engaging, without distracting from its essence. The second principle is the integration of game mechanics into the very fabric of learning, rather than their mechanical overlay. Simply adding points for completing standard tasks is a superficial approach. Deep gamification rethinks the very way of interacting with the material, turning learning into a meaningful adventure. The third principle is the gradual reduction of external stimulation in favor of internal motivation. A well-designed gamification system works like scaffolding, initially essential, but as the building grows, their importance diminishes. Similarly, game mechanics should eventually give way to a natural interest in the subject. Critical thinking is another aspect that requires special attention in gamification. The game format can contribute to the development of this skill through puzzles, multiple choice scenarios, and collaborative tasks. However, it is important to avoid oversimplifying complex concepts for the sake of gamification. True critical thinking requires depth that cannot be sacrificed for entertainment. Ideal gamification is not one that makes learning indistinguishable from play, but one that helps the student enter a state of flow, where challenge and mastery are in perfect balance, and educational tasks are solved with natural enthusiasm. Modern gamification of education is unthinkable without technological platforms that transform the learning process into an exciting journey. The educational technology market offers an unprecedented variety of tools, from simple mobile applications to full-fledged virtual worlds. Mobile platforms like Kahoot and Quizlet transform ordinary tests into thrilling competitions, where students answer questions in real time, vying for a spot on the leaderboard. These tools are particularly effective for younger students, providing instant feedback and maintaining a high level of engagement. For middle schoolers, more complex systems like Classcraft and ClassDojo work excellently, turning the entire academic year into an epic adventure with character development, team missions, and global story arcs. High school students and university learners are suited to platforms with elements of simulating real professional situations. Labster for virtual laboratory work, or Minecraft Education Edition for design and modeling. VR technologies occupy a special niche, allowing full immersion into the studied environment. Virtual tours of ancient Rome in history classes, or a journey inside a cell in biology. These immersive experiences ensure 100% attention and deep emotional engagement. Research shows that information gained through VR experience is retained 70% better than with traditional learning. When choosing a technological platform, it is critically important to consider not only the age of the students, but also specific educational goals. For training basic skills, simple applications with a reward system are sufficient, whereas developing critical thinking requires more complex simulations with open endings and multiple scenarios. It is important to remember that technology is just a tool, and even the most advanced platform cannot replace competent pedagogical design. The best results are achieved with a hybrid approach, where digital tools complement, rather than replace, live interaction and traditional methods. In the era of educational gamification, the teacher's role undergoes a radical transformation. From a knowledge transmitter, they become an architect of learning adventures. The modern educator can no longer confine themselves to a traditional set of competencies. They simultaneously become a game designer, scriptwriter, and moderator of educational game processes. This demands fundamentally new skills and ways of thinking. First and foremost, The teacher must master the basic principles of game design. Understanding how reward systems work, how difficulty balance is constructed, and how engaging narratives are created. Without this knowledge, gamification risks devolving into a primitive addition of points to ordinary assignments, which quickly loses effectiveness. The educator of this new formation must think like a user experience designer, analyzing which mechanics elicit the greatest response from specific students and flexibly adapting game scenarios. The skill of balancing becomes particularly important. The ability to find the golden mean between entertainment and learning. Too many game elements, and the educational content dissolves into entertainment. Too few, and the motivational effect of gamification is lost. The teacher must become a master of this balance, constantly monitoring whether game mechanics serve educational goals or begin to substitute them. Technological literacy becomes not just desirable, but an essential quality. The educator must navigate the diversity of digital platforms and tools, able to choose optimal solutions for specific tasks and age groups. When we implement game mechanics in education, we inevitably face serious ethical questions. Gamification is not just a tool to increase learning effectiveness, but also a powerful method of shaping behavior. We program not only knowledge but also the values of entire generations. What responsibility do we assume when using these tools? The system of rewards and achievements imperceptibly forms a certain worldview in children, where every action must bring immediate gratification. Are we raising a generation incapable of delayed gratification, a fundamental skill for achieving long-term goals? Studies show a disturbing trend. Children accustomed to a constant stream of digital rewards experience significant difficulties when faced with tasks where the outcome is delayed. An even deeper question concerns value orientations. Any gamification system inevitably reflects a certain ideology. What do we reward students for? What do we consider an achievement? What qualities do we cultivate? If we only encourage individual achievements and competition, are we not forming a society where cooperation and empathy will be marginalized? The social consequences of mass gamification of education are only just beginning to emerge, but fundamental shifts in intergenerational communication can already be observed. Children raised in a gamified environment expect clear rules, distinct goals, and immediate feedback in all areas of life. They experience frustration in situations of uncertainty, which are so characteristic of the real world. A new type of social interaction is forming, where relationships are built on game principles, with clear roles, measurable achievements, and constant status tracking. This changes not only education but also family relationships, friendships, and romantic connections. A particular concern is the issue of privacy and the digital footprint. Gamified educational platforms collect unprecedented amounts of data on children's cognitive characteristics, behavioral patterns, and psychological traits. Who owns this data? How will it be used in the future? Will it not become a tool for manipulation? We must remember that behind the bright badges and exciting quests lies powerful analytics capable of creating a detailed psychological profile of each child. Looking into the future of educational gamification, we see not just an evolution of existing approaches, but a true revolution underpinned by the rapid development of technology. Artificial intelligence will become a key component of next-generation educational games. Adaptive systems will analyze not only academic performance, but also the emotional state of the student, adjusting the difficulty and type of tasks in real time. Imagine a platform that understands when a child loses interest or experiences frustration, and instantly changes the learning scenario. Virtual and augmented reality will shift from experimental technologies to everyday tools. History lessons will transform into a full immersion into the past, where students don't just learn about events, but live through them. Biology will become a journey inside a cell, and physics, an interactive exploration of the quantum world. But technology is only part of the future landscape. An equally important trend will be social gamification, emphasizing collaboration and solving real-world problems. Instead of isolated virtual achievements, students will be rewarded for projects that have a real impact on their communities. Environmental initiatives, volunteering, social innovations, all of this will be integrated into educational gaming systems. To create truly effective gamified educational systems of the future, several key principles must be adhered to. Firstly, prioritizing long-term intrinsic motivation over short-term extrinsic incentives. Game mechanics should gradually give way to a natural interest in the subject. Secondly, personalization. Taking into account not only cognitive features, but also the value orientations of each student. Thirdly, a balance between digital and physical experience. Even the most advanced technologies cannot replace tactile interaction with the real world, which is necessary for holistic development. Finally, ethical awareness. Understanding that gamification shapes not only knowledge, but also the behavioral patterns of entire generations. The future of educational gamification lies at the intersection of technology, psychology, and ethics. Only a balanced approach, considering all these aspects, will allow the full potential of game mechanics to be unleashed in shaping the thinking of future generations, while minimizing the associated risks. The education of the future will not just be a game, but a meaningful adventure, where every step brings the student not only closer to new knowledge, but also to a better understanding of themselves and the world.